Right now, right now. 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 Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today, so we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always happens, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto. This is your week daily morning show where we bring you the latest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, technical, on-chain, and fundamental analysis. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about Bitcoin and what the next 12 months are going to look like on Bitcoin. As you guys know, we've been doing quite a bit of content on the year of 2023 since it's the beginning of the year. And we're going to be talking a little bit about what the bottom for Bitcoin might look like, whether it's here or not, and what that extrapolated rally moving into the rest of this year may end up looking like. Are we going to drop down to $12,000? Are we going to move sideways? Are we going to manage to break up to $30,000 or $35,000 or $40,000 by the end of the year? That's what we're going to be discussing, and I would love to bring you along for the ride. But even before we get into it, I have to let you know that this morning has been a bit of a ride because it's been pretty interesting. As you guys know, tomorrow my wife and I will be 25 weeks pregnant. So definitely not at term yet, just barely past viability, which is 24 weeks. And she's had 4 contractions that are evenly spaced in the last hour and a half. So I might have to just dip at any point here because if she has one more, we're calling the OB and probably going to labor and delivery. So just so you know, I'm here. Did not have a lot of time or ability or bandwidth to prepare very much for this stream, so I'm probably going to be leaning very heavily in on the chat. She's going to tell me if she has another contraction, and if she does, I'm out, and I've got to go to the hospital with her and make sure that everything is safe. Obviously, I'm sure you guys understand. Hopefully you do. Been a bit of a hectic couple of months just trying to get everything set back up and getting everything running the right way, and in the background, we've been trying to make sure that Sarah's healthy and making sure that our family's running well and that everything's being taken care of there. But it's been a blessing. Things are going pretty well right now. I mean, this is a bit of a scare. You guys are kind of here in the middle of it. She asked very, very, very vehemently, by the way, that I do the stream. I didn't want to do the stream. I wanted to go straight to the hospital. I'm honoring her request for me to do the stream. So just so you guys know, I'm not a terrible father and husband. I wanted to go to the hospital. She asked if I could go ahead and at least try to do the stream and that she'd tell me if we had another one. So anyway, maybe that's a little bit TMI for you guys. Hopefully not. We're going to go ahead and read some chat. And like I said, at any point, I might have to dip. But hopefully, and we're praying that we don't have another one and that our daughter stays in there for at least another 10 weeks or so because she's definitely not ready. Grand Roofing Incorporated in chat said, "Good morning, Jebb. Good morning, all. What a beautiful day it is. It is such a beautiful day. That is true. And I have a ton of energy right now, despite not having had any coffee this morning. I literally, this morning, I was like, this is before all this started happening with the contractions. I took all the coffee beans and everything from the kitchen. I went and put them in our bedroom, and I'm going to lock them in a safe because I'm so tired of I'm just going to have a little bit. Oh, I'm going to wean myself off. Nope. I'm going to see if I can go cold turkey. It's just silly the way I've been handling this. So just going to go ahead and do that. And I feel great. I suppose maybe I'm being blessed for that. I've got a lot of energy right now, and I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully coming through on this stream. We got Crypto Mini Bike in chat, Grand Roofing Incorporated in chat again. We got Mike Lowry in chat, said, "Good morning, my CNC family, hashtag FinSolve." We got Flavio Goncalves. We got Mike Lowry in chat. Let's see. Grand Roofing Incorporated said, "I was up on a roof. I got carried away and lost track of time. Almost missed the beginning of the show." Me too. We got Justin Eubank said, "Good morning, Crypto Jebb." Let's see here. 80 watching and 17 likes, people. Really hit the likes. Smash the likes. Appreciate all of you guys for doing that. Let's see. We've got Crypto Mini Bike, Grand Roofing Incorporated. We got Queen in chat. Let's see. Let's catch up on all the chat if we can. Congratulations in advance. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, we are very, very, very much looking forward to meeting our daughter out here in the world. She's big. She's kicking and going wild in there. I'm proud of you, Pastor Jebb. Thank you. not just crypto, but also business and real estate. As I said, I'm going to lean pretty heavily on talking to you guys in chat today just because of the nature of not having my normal time to prepare the stream today, which is totally fine. Like I said, I wasn't even planning on doing the stream. Queen said, hashtag Finsoft Sarah, heart, 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 heart. There you go. Queen Sarah's right behind the chat, so she right behind the camera, so she would have heard that. Sean Frost said 12 inches of snow on the ground inside painting, listening to the best guy on YouTube. Who are you listening to? Must not be me. No, I'm kidding. Star-Lord said, congrats, Jebb. Praying everything goes smoothly. Yeah, for any of you guys who don't know, having a baby this early means that the baby would probably have to be in the NICU for 2 months. So we definitely don't want her to come yet. She needs to stay in there. Ryan Jenkins donated $20, said, prayers for Sarah and the baby. Take a day, bro. Tell her we understand. Really, really appreciate the understanding, guys. It does obviously make things easier because you have to make a decision to put your family first. And, it is definitely easier when there is support for that kind of decision. Let's see. Family is important. Do what you need to do. Keeping you in my thoughts and prayers. Elaine Loftus said, praying for you all. Mindful Gus said, hi, Jebb. Knowledge is Deep said, what's up, Jebb? Crypto Mo said, hi. Congratulations, bro. Good night from Bali. What's up, Bali? I love your family, multicultural Jebb. Thank you. You should take the option away and toss the coffee. Removes the use of willpower, too. That's absolutely right. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump onto CoinMarketCap and do a little bit of a market recap. Like I said, let's see how we can do today, considering I had about 5 minutes to put the stream on. I even had to use an old thumbnail, so I literally walked in here at 9:55, set everything up technically, and threw it in here. I found a couple of news articles. We're going to go back to the olden days, back in the day when I was just starting the channel, and I literally pressed record, and I did no planning because I was not diligent. Definitely wishing I hadn't have done that. I'm talking like 3-4 years ago, back when it was just myself. So we're gonna see if I can run with it today. Shadrach Frost donated, member for 16 months, said, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, Jebb and family. God has truly blessed us with you. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, all your mind, trust in the Lord God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and He will not depart from you. How does that go? Let's see. All right, your real family always comes first. That's true. That is, ultimately we all are supposed to be serving a holy God, and whatever He would call us to do, that's what we should do. And I think He would definitely have us to be very careful with our daughter. Anyway, Bitcoin currently trading at $16,808, up 0.8% on the day. We got ETH up 3% on the day, up to $1,248 and change. Remember, guys, both of these asset markets are trading in the multi-$100 billion territory. We have undergone a massive capitulation in Bitcoin, the likes of which the stock market would drive the economy into one of the deepest depressions that we've seen in centuries if it were to occur there. And yet, Bitcoin's industry is still kicking. It is still doing a lot of work to develop itself, and Bitcoin and crypto are still worth hundreds of billions of dollars. The industry just shy of $1 trillion in market capitalization, despite the amount of movement that has taken place out of the space. We've seen about $2.5 trillion leave the industry just on market cap alone. And don't forget, guys, it's not just the market capitalizations of cryptocurrencies that define the size of the industry. If you really want the full breadth of the industry, you also need to involve every single cryptocurrency company in this sector, and those are worth hundreds of billions of dollars in their own right. So if you include those companies' market capitalizations, we're talking, a Coinbase, we're talking a Crypto.com, a Binance, all of those different companies. You include those in, and you're also looking at several $100 billion worth of market capitalization. Binance worth at least $100 billion, but Coinbase is publicly traded, so we can actually check that right now. Let's see. They're probably worth in the tens, if not even a little bit lower. They've lost a lot of market cap, but they are still pretty large. Let's see what their company market cap is real quick. Looking like Coinbase does not want to give me, YouTube does not want to give this to me. Okay, there we go. Market cap, $9.14 billion. So even though they've dropped massively from $90 billion, down 90%, they're still worth $10 billion. And that is a part of the valuation of the cryptocurrency market at large. And I definitely wouldn't want us to leave that out. So crypto is doing very well despite the massive drop. And I want you guys to keep that in mind, because if we don't remember that Bitcoin is doing extremely well, even though it's had a major retracement, then we can start to feel undue discouragement. And that's not something that we would want. we would want Bitcoin and cryptocurrency to remain in our minds what the truth is, and that is a very powerful industry that has a lot of advancement to do before it in the future, and it has a lot of solutions to very important problems, such as the inability to store wealth into the future, the ability to build things in a decentralized manner that you may not have to trust in a centralized third party, and the ability to bring hundreds of millions of people together in a new community that looks forward to the future and building in a way that is conducive to the advancement of civilization and the betterment of society and equality among finances at large. Bitcoin is the driver of that, and that why has not changed. And hopefully, unless it ever got a 51% attack, never will. Binance currently trading at $254. We have Cardano down here at 26 cents, up 4% on the day. And that's something I want to point out. Over the last 7 days, in fact, let's just do year to date. On the year to date, a lot of things are up, and they're up pretty substantially. Not just, Solana up here, the one taking the lead. Now, Solana dropped hard, bad. It makes sense it's bouncing a little bit because it does have a decently active community even still. But not just on the Solana front, but also on a lot of other fronts like Avalanche. Avalanche is up 10% year to date. Aave's up 9% year to date. Litecoin up 7.3% year to date. We got ApeCoin. Believe it or not. That's the Bored Ape Yacht Club cryptocurrency. That's up 7%. Old Dono up 6.3%. Let's see. We've also got BNB up 4.6% on the year so far, moving into this year. Cardano up 2.87%. Bitcoin itself up 1.8% and change. And then you get the stable coins, and pretty much everything is doing well and is up except for ICP, Toncoin, XDC Network, Unisedlio, and the rest of these are stable coins. Just want to make sure you have that perspective that we are not just moving down and to the left forever, or down and to the right forever. That'd be weird going down and to the left. I guess somebody bought a DeLorean with their gains last bull market. Anyway, we're not just moving down and to the right forever. We are finally starting to move just right. And that is what we want to be. We want to be just right. That's where we want to be. We want to be just right. And we're getting there, and I just want you guys to not lose hope inside of that. If you're enjoying today's stream, make sure to smash that like button. Got 250 people in chat. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. It means the world to me. Smash the like button. Let's see if we can get to 200 likes here in the next couple of minutes. And make sure to tell your friends about the stream. We go live here at 10 a.m. Eastern every single weekday, even when there are things that we want to be very careful with in our personal lives, but we're definitely going to try. Rudy Poo said, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Amen to that. Let's keep moving here. Bitcoin is currently trading at $16,700 and change. As I said, guys, Bitcoin is moving sideways. It's not really doing a whole lot right now. It is boring. This is very reminiscent to me, even on the YouTube front, because as a YouTuber, I have some context about what the market does and how that affects the YouTube space. And I can actually use the way that YouTube analytics are going and use that to have a feeling about what the market is doing. And I'll tell you what, this segment of history that we are in right now, right here, feels a whole lot like this moment right here. I'm going to tell you why. Bitcoin was in a bear market. It was towards the end of the bear market, but we weren't sure that the bear market was over. Volatility became extremely low, and we also just witnessed a major rally and then crash on the market. On top of that, there were some black swan events that were taking place back here. In this instance, we had seen BlackRock, we'd seen Backed launch to very little fanfare. In fact, it hadn't launched, I don't think. I think it was trying to launch and it failed to launch. And there were a few other things going on at this time. The Winklevoss brothers were trying to get a Bitcoin ETF published, approved, and that failed. There were a few different things back here, not as significant as FTX, of course, not significant as BitConnect that happened right here, or the pandemic that happened right here, or Luna that happened right here. But there were some very substantial things going on, and none of them were bullish. The most bullish thing you saw is that, oh, there's a new ATM on the corner of where am I, and I don't know where I am. That's essentially the biggest bullish news that you were seeing at the time. The market was, for all intents and purposes, dead as far as interest was concerned. Now, Bitcoin's Y was stronger than ever, and it had just another day, every single day, of proof that it was what it said it was, and that it was the answer to one of the biggest problems that humanity has ever faced financially, and that is the inability to store wealth into the future through a stable, that sounds like it should be a word, but it's not, a stable currency. Bitcoin's Y was just as strong, if not stronger, than ever. And what happened? Bitcoin fell through the floor because it had not pulled back enough. It was already retraced 70% from all-time high. Was that enough? Was it not enough? We didn't know. I was under the impression, and remember, this is 4 years ago. I was under the impression, it's over 4 years ago, actually. I was under the impression that, okay, maybe that was enough. Maybe we'll bottom out here and we'll start moving to the upside. What I forgot was that during the last bear market before that, in fact, I hadn't forgotten it, but during the last bull market before, we had done something similar. We had bottomed out here, right here. And then we had another flash crash that ended the bear market. And that finally confirmed everybody's idea that, okay, bear market is over. The bottom is actually in. And then they had to rebuild the confidence that it was going to go back up and it wasn't just going to stay down there forever. We get more confident in that every bull market because the market is more mature. Similar thing happened in 2018. We're bottoming out, bottoming out, bottoming out. Everybody's asking, is this really the bottom or do we need one more flush out? Because a lot of people back here were saying, yeah, Bitcoin needs one more flush out. Bitcoin could go to $1,300. Bitcoin could go to $3,000. Bitcoin could go to $4,000. And Bitcoin did end up doing that. It ended up dropping and flushing out the weak hands. And then because it had retraced 85% from all-time high, everybody said, okay, I'll take it. I will trust that Bitcoin has actually bottomed out now because I don't see Bitcoin dropping below $3,000. That's pretty much what everybody said in their mind subconsciously. We're in a similar boat right now. We're in a very similar position right now to the position that we were in 2014, towards the end of 2014, where we were low, but were we low enough? We are in a similar position now to the position we were in at the end of 2018, where we were low, but are we low enough? Now, and you can even see the distance between these two is almost perfectly equivalent. I mean, look at this. Let's just draw a line right here between these two market actions. They're almost perfectly equidistant as well, and they're almost perfectly equidistant from the next halving, as you can see right here, as we are right now. History is repeating itself, and if you understand the trends, you'll understand what happens next if that trend continues. And it could break, but if that trend continues, what we're going to see is very simple. Let's just remove all the drawings for a second. You can see right here, I'm not going to draw because it'll bring them all back. Right here, this is what we're talking about. Right there in December of 14, here in September of 18, now we're in the exact same place. Are we going to see a perfect repeat of these areas coming now? If we do, then we have to ask ourselves another question. Because in those last two instances, we saw one major drop that saw a huge amount of valuation get shed from the market. Was that the FTX capitulation? Did that count as the major capitulation towards the end of the cycle? Because a lot of people were thinking that this is it, but Bitcoin was only dropped 70% from all-time high. Remember, that's exactly the same position that Bitcoin was in back here before it went through its final capitulation, with 65 to 70% from all-time high. Up here, Bitcoin was about 70 to 75% from all-time high, was not the full 85%. The question on our minds now is, did the FTX massive drop actually set in motion that final leg down that we were looking for? Or did FTX dropping just cause such a shock to the industry that it, like an earthquake, it just cleaved the price straight down, but it didn't actually set into motion the full earthquake? Was that just a tremor? Was FTX going bankrupt just a tremor? Or was it the actual earthquake that bottomed everything out? That's what we have to consider. Because if not, if that was not the final capitulation, then there could be one more coming. Because the one more coming normally drops us down a lot more than what this did. Remember, guys, this drop, large as it was 27%. The previous drops that we're talking about are both double that size. This one was 51%. And then you see that this one over here was from the top to the bottom, 47%. I hear what you might be saying, but Jebb, Bitcoin's more mature right now. But Jebb, Bitcoin is older now. But Jebb, Bitcoin's not necessarily going to follow the halving cycle anymore because Bitcoin has become a much larger industry. Bitcoin has a lot more market participants. It has a lot more attraction towards it. It's not necessarily going to see another 50% drop. A 50% drop wouldn't even make sense. A 50% drop would drop it down to $8,000. That's true. But what if you measure the 50% drop from $20,000, which is where we should be right now if we hadn't have seen FTX collapse? Well, then you see $10,000 being a target, and $10,000 as a target makes a lot of sense because that's 85% retrace from all-time high, which is the exact same amount that the market retraced in both of the previous bull markets, down to the single percentage point of 85%. And by the way, if you don't think that Bitcoin can drop 50% from where it was ranging at $19,000 to $20,000 because it's a more mature market, let me just break it to you. Not really. It is a far larger market, but not necessarily that much more mature. If the market was much more mature, then what is FTX doing blowing up in a BitConnect Mt. Gox style? In fact, an even worse explosion, because at least BitConnect was a scam, and anybody that knew what they were doing could have predicted it. And Mt. Gox got hacked, and it was built by a bunch of people that didn't really know exactly what they were doing. FTX blowing up seems like they knew exactly what they were doing, and they knew that it was stupid, and they knew that it was illegal, and they did it anyway. Mt. Gox is orders of magnitude larger than BitConnect, orders of magnitude larger than Mt. Gox. Not quite bigger than Luna, but in a different way. They're both massive, massive red flags that show us that no, this industry is not mature. A mature industry does not have a Lehman Brothers moment twice in 5 months. So if you don't think Bitcoin can drop 50% from $20,000 down to 10, 11, 12, you're wrong. I say that with love, but I would disagree with you. And maybe it's prideful for me to say you're wrong because maybe I'm assuming that I'm right. But the fact is, it is very possible, and we should be prepared for it. So when I say in the title, Bitcoin will soon face a turning point, and remember, guys, I kind of had to put together the whole narrative for this show in less than 60 seconds, so track with me here. If you need some help following along, feel free to ask me some questions. When I say Bitcoin's at a turning point, right now, as far as I can tell, it has a decision to make, and I think this decision will be made relatively soon. Is Bitcoin going to go ahead and just flash crash down to $12,000? Is it going to sit here and trade sideways at 16 for the next 5 months, and then drop down to $12,000 and then immediately rebound because the market conditions could be better? Are we going to see a prolonged bear market and accumulation phase? Because we might not quite be out of the bear market yet. We might not quite be into the accumulation phase yet, but we're getting close. Are we going to see a lengthening of the tail end of the bear market, which is where we probably are right now, or we're at the beginning of the accumulation phase, either one, a lengthening of the accumulation phase due to the catastrophic implications of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, the pandemic blowing up again in China, the massive drop in interest in the cryptocurrency space, people being very opposed to risk on assets, massive inflation that is getting under control in theory, at least nominally, but is still a problem, GDP not being anywhere near where you would want it to be conducive to a risk on asset market rally, the interest rate over at the effective federal funds rate over at the Fed increasing at 50 basis points every 45 days, and the fact that the Dixie is extremely strong. None of those things are very good for Bitcoin. And by the way, another thing that's not very good for Bitcoin is that global chip manufacturing is up a creek right now because China is trying to intimidate Taiwan, and people are very scared about building new fabs in Taiwan right now. So a lot of the chip manufacturing is at best shut down because China is going into another kind of shutdown, not a lockdown, but they're losing a lot of their manufacturing capability this very day. As far as nothing particular important today, but today, like right now, they're losing a massive amount of their manufacturing capabilities. South Korea is losing a lot of its manufacturing capabilities. The average income of the citizens of the South Chinese, the South China Sea region. So we're talking Taiwan, Bangladesh. That's a little close. That's obviously closer to India. We're talking about China itself. We're talking about Vietnam. All these different nations that are involved in that regional production of chip manufacturing for the world that relies on different per capita income bases. That sector is being completely disrupted, and that has a huge implication on Bitcoin for two reasons. Number one, that causes a lot of strain on the on the global economy because the global economy relies on electronics. Number two, those electronics go into miners, and that doesn't seem to be a problem right now because all the miners are going bankrupt and have insane debt-to-equity ratios, but those miners going bankrupt means that they put more miners onto the ecosystem, but that's only going to last for a limited time because there's only so many miners out there before you have to go and build new miners, because there are still new miners being built, but those new miners are going to get more expensive because the chips are getting impossible to source because globalization is falling apart. So 2023 is a very, very trying year. If you didn't track with everything I just said, that's completely fine. That was an overhead analysis of 17 different topics that it would take an hour or more to go into each one of them just to scratch the surface. The point was not for you to understand or to not understand. I think you understand. I don't mean to insult you, but to track with everything that I just said. The point was to show you there are a ton of different variables that are throwing a monkey wrench in the economy in 2023. Not the least of which being an extremely strong dollar that is holding Bitcoin down because they're perfectly inversely correlated. This is going to be a very difficult year for this is going to be a very difficult year for Bitcoin to have a major comeback. So it is possible, and this is the original point I was making, looping back, it is possible that the accumulation phase and the tail end of the bear market take longer to recover and for us to go into a bull market. It is possible that we start going into a bull market later than what many of us have been predicting since the global economy continues to worsen and worsen. And I'm not trying to be a doomsday person here. I'm not saying we're going into the apocalypse. I'm not saying that, but I am saying that the next decade is going to be very difficult for the global economy as globalization is unraveling, as China is no longer going to be able to be the world's factory, as we are seeing decrease in globalization, increase in regionalism, where you're having different parts of the world trading and interacting with each other, where the United States is becoming more defensive, where the United States does not have the naval capabilities anymore or the desire to police the entire world's shipping lanes, as we've been leaning more into aircraft carriers and further away from destroyers. This is going to be a very difficult year for all those reasons, and one of the other reasons is because of a massive demographic problem. We've known it's coming for 30 years. There is a huge demographic shift happening in pretty much every country in the world, not including Canada, including Europe, including Australia, including pretty much all of NATO, which is basically everybody but Canada and the United States. The United States is going through their own demographic issues with the boomers aging into retirement. Huge generation aging into retirement, no longer will be contributing to the economy through production or consumption. All of these different factors going on in the background paint a light on Bitcoin that is a little bit dimmer than what we saw in the 2010s. I want to stress this. The 2010s were a golden age, and they were not the normal for human history. Human history is normally not that productive economically. 1995 to 2018 was a golden age, the likes of which humanity has never seen, and we may see again, and we probably will be able to maintain, at least to some degree, if you're in the United States, maybe not so much if you're in the rest of the world, to maintain to some degree a similar standard of living, but you probably won't see as much technological advancement in this decade and as much economic advancement and political and relational and globalized advancement happening this decade as you saw in the last two. And that is going to have knock-on effects for a risk-on asset that is supposed to be the next internet, that is supposed to go on and challenge the current world order. It's not to say that Bitcoin's going to fail. That's not to say Bitcoin's going to flop. That is, however, to say that Bitcoin is going to have a harder time this decade than it did last decade, and that is something that we should make sure we are aware of. So, drawing all of that back to Bitcoin, where does that take us? Well, what all of that means is that the backdrop that Bitcoin built on during this time is no longer there. This has been ripped up and shredded. I'm talking about the era of endlessly free debt because of the interest rates being near zero. I'm talking about the era of 2 to 4% GDP growth every single year for pretty much every single developed nation in the world. We're talking about the era of cheap manufacturing in China, where China was a backseat driver of the world, where they were able to contribute hugely to the global economy, but they weren't trying to actually overthrow it by invading Taiwan, which they probably won't do that. They want to, but I think they realized that it wouldn't go very well for them after the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. This is an era of more or less global peace. Of course, you had the war on terror back here. But that was in the very early days of Bitcoin. Bitcoin wasn't really being affected by the outside market as much. And then also keep in mind, all of those factors that I just mentioned have an even bigger impact on Bitcoin today than they would have 5-10 years ago, because 5-10 years ago, Bitcoin was much smaller and the rest of the world did not have as big of an implication on Bitcoin because it was much more isolated. Bitcoin is a massive industry now that is coming before Congress almost every single day. It is honestly, and it honestly should be treated, as Kevin O'Leary has said, as the 12th sector of the stock market. And I would agree with that statement. Now, of course, Kevin's got himself into some trouble recently. I'm not commenting on that. But as far as what he said there, I think he's right. Bitcoin and crypto should be treated as the 12th sector of the stock market and of the economy. And it has a very bright future. But 2023 and this decade are going to be more difficult. So how does that tie in with this prediction that I've made? that Bitcoin's going to follow something along this trajectory. Well, there's a reason why this is such a wide box. If you've seen this on the channel, I've talked about it several times. And all these lines mean something. I'll go ahead and I'll actually just go ahead and get rid of some of them to make it a little bit easier for you to see, because I don't actually need every single one of them up. Go ahead and get rid of at least some of these. We'll leave that one there. Yes, we'll leave that one there. Okay, so as you can see, we have these three boxes, and these boxes are basically my best guess at what Bitcoin's going to do over the next 2 to 5 years. As you may notice, there is a potential here based on this extrapolation that in 2025, Bitcoin could be below $30,000. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Bitcoin will recover much faster than that. I think you will see Bitcoin above all-time high at least by 2025, if not even sooner. However, there is a path within this prediction that leads Bitcoin massively to the upside at 200K, but also where it leads it sideways to 25, 30K. The question comes down to, and this really is the core driving question of Bitcoin right now, and it's probably not the one you've been taught. The core driving question of Bitcoin right now for the next 3 years of price action is, how will the global economy and the macro environment impact Bitcoin, and what is going to happen in the global economy and the macro environment that will impact Bitcoin? I guess that's two questions. Those two questions are going to drive everything. What happens in the macro, and then how it impacts Bitcoin. Bitcoin is at the whim of the global economy right now. You might not like to hear that because Bitcoin is this revolutionary idea. Bitcoin is an incredibly powerful asset that can liberate billions from the oppressive yoke of the global economy and of the world order. Those things are true. Bitcoin does have a lot of power. It does have a lot of why. But there have been great technologies before that have taken a long time to take off because they just weren't at the right time, because they didn't have the right backdrop. Did you know that it was possible? Rome had the potential to develop steam engines. They actually had the technological and societal capital and potential to develop steam power. They had coal. They had a very advanced form of ironworking for their time, and they had a huge base of population where they could have potentially developed steam technology in 200 AD, 200, 300 AD. It was very possible they did. That technology took 1,600 years to get developed again because the world was not in the right position to back up the kind of technological development that was needed to support that kind of industry. What would the world look like if Rome had have developed steam power? Wow, could you only imagine? If Rome develops steam, what happens next? Then they figure out how to develop steel. Then they figure out how to develop mass production for their concrete. Then they have the ability to use that steam power to mass produce weapons and arms, and then you have everybody marching into battle with dirt cheap weapons, and you can give some random farmer that you conscripted a full-on breastplate and everything. You can use the steam power to help mine iron ore so that they can continue to create more weapons, and they conquer all of Europe all the way up to Scandinavia. What kind of impact would that have had? But it never happened because well, first of all, it just didn't get discovered, so that's part of it, of course. There were people that were thinking about it, though. It, first of all, just didn't get discovered. But second of all, Rome fell apart. The world order that would have supported the advancement of that technology ceased to exist. It stopped. When steam power finally did come around, it happened in Britain. And it happened in Britain because Britain was the global superpower. They were the dominant force on the planet, and they had an immense amount of coal. It's very possible that what we did with steam 300 years ago, however long ago it was, could have been done in Rome. It could have been done in China. It could have been done 200 years later in the United States. The fact of the matter is, it happened when it happened, not because people didn't already have an idea. You're telling me there's hundreds of millions of people, millions of them that understand the way the world works very, very well, and nobody had the idea that you could boil water and that could cause... You could use coal or something else like wood to boil water, and that water boiling would then turn a turbine that would create mechanical energy that you could then use to do something else. Of course that was thought of. Of course that was thought of. But the technology to do that was not yet developed, and also the society was not ready for that kind of technology. First of all, it didn't have the human capital. Second of all, a lot of societies didn't have the raw resources. Third of all, they just didn't have the cultural support network, not only to develop that technology, but then also to have a use for it where you need it in the first place. That may sound like a tangent, but my point is that if Bitcoin is going to thrive, it has to have the right backdrop. It has to have the right ecosystem. If you throw a polar bear into Florida, that thing's going to overheat and it's going to have a heat stroke, and it's not going to end well. If you put me at the North Pole, I'm going to freeze to death and turn into a popsicle in about 10 minutes. The success of an organism depends on its environment. I know it seems a little weird that I'm using biology and sociology to explain why Bitcoin may have a difficult time this decade, but I hope you're tracking with me. For Bitcoin to succeed and thrive in this decade, it needs to have a backdrop that will support it, and that is not a knock against the technology. I think we could all agree that steam power is an incredibly useful technology. We still use it. It's 300 years later, we still use it. That's still the root of how we generate most of our electricity through coal, is through the very same steam process that was developed in Britain hundreds of years ago. We still use the technology. There's nothing, it's not bad tech. I'm not saying Bitcoin is bad tech. I'm saying, is the world ready for it? Maybe not. Maybe not right now. Maybe this decade is a decade, and this is pessimistic, and by the way, I don't believe this, but I'm taking it to an extreme. Maybe this decade is a bad decade for Bitcoin and has a very difficult time getting above $100,000. And then next decade, oh my gosh, most of the nations of the world have gotten through their huge demographic crises. They're no longer undergoing negative GDP growth. The United States has gotten through the issue with the Gen Xers being smaller than the boomers, and then we have a better demographical pyramid to allow for even stronger economic development. Maybe we have more global peace. Maybe the United States has a different president, different Congress that moves more into this globalized New World Order idea. I'm not talking New World Order in the Illuminati sense, but I'm talking about world order as in they want to maintain globalization and shipping and then continue to offshore things. Maybe we go back into globalization 2.0 in the 2030s and Bitcoin, it takes off. Maybe. Or maybe Bitcoin is just such a powerful technology, and because of the internet, it doesn't really matter all that much what the background is, because Bitcoin has a strong enough use case and has a strong enough why that people are going to adopt it anyway, and the industry might take a blow, might take a hit, but it will end up surviving and thriving because what parts of the industry don't work in this current world will fall apart. FTX, Luna, Core Scientific, Celsius, I'm looking at you, and the parts that do thrive, such as just investing at Bitcoin itself, start to do very well. Maybe that's what happens and Bitcoin takes off to 200K. But when I say in the title that this is a turning point for Bitcoin, I don't just mean that this is a turning point in Bitcoin for the short term where we're trying to figure out whether or not we're going to go into a bull market or not. It's also a turning point for this decade. What's going to happen? What's the world going to look like in 5 years? We don't know. There's two very different directions that it could go. We could see peace tomorrow, next 6 months in Russia and Ukraine. Global manufacturing rebases wherever it's going to go in the next 1 year, 2 year, with advancements in construction, 3D printing, and just culturally, and the governments around the world get on the same page, rebase the manufacturing where it's going, and everything starts to go well. Maybe that happens. Maybe 3 years from now, we're through the worst of it, and the economy is going back into globalization and is doing wonderfully. Or maybe not. We don't know. Best guess, it's going to be a difficult decade. Best guess, a difficult decade means a difficult decade for Bitcoin. My best guess, though, still is that Bitcoin's over $100,000 in the next 3 years. I still think that's going to happen. So I don't want you guys to think that. I don't want you guys to think that we are witnessing the complete destruction of the industry. I don't think that at all. I think we're going to a massive, massive restructuring of the industry. And honestly, it's something that probably needs to happen because a lot of the industry has been built on the idea of building in a similar way to the way that the tech industry was built. You get a bunch of people in offices all over the world. You get a bunch of cheap debt, and you get 25-to-1 debt to equity ratio, Core Scientific. You do a lot of networking with famous people. You name a stadium after yourself, pay $20 million over the course of 20 years to do that. And you sell yourself as the next big thing, the next internet. And Bitcoin is the next internet as far as I'm concerned. A lot of the industry around it is not. I'm not talking about the crypto projects. I'm talking about the companies that support a lot of the crypto projects. I'm talking about a lot of the exchanges. These are big deals. But ultimately, how much of the money is in crypto to make money and how much of the money is in crypto for the tech? Because the money that's in the crypto to make money, well, that's a tautological cycle that breaks down at some point. Eventually, you stop making money, so the people that are here to make money stop making money, so they leave and they go somewhere else to make money. And you go back to the root, which is what the real value is. And the real value is decentralized technology. The real value is Bitcoin being completely and totally unhackable and totally secure and will store your wealth into the future forever. As long as there's an internet. which, by the way, you could still run Bitcoin even without the internet. You could run that on paper if you had enough trust. The thing is, you wouldn't because it's a trustless environment. That's why it needs to be on code. When you see a transition like this, it doesn't happen very often, but it's very important. And the transition is very rarely going to be easy. It's very rare that you're going to see a transition of this caliber take place in a way that is not painful. And it just so happens that this transition is happening at the bottom of a bear market. And that's a good place for it to happen, because if this transition were starting to happen at the top of a bull market, then what could happen is that you could end up having the bull market stop short, and everybody who was waiting to cash out at a certain point wasn't able to because, oh my gosh, a conflict got declared. Globalization's falling apart. We have food shortages. We have fertilizer issues where people can't grow crops this year because they don't have any fertilizer, because the two biggest nations that were producing the phosphate that goes into the crops declared war. One of them declared war on the other. You could have that happen at the top of a bull market, and everybody who was waiting, okay, they predict Bitcoin's going to go to $50,000, $60,000. Boom. We're going to sell and start laddering out when it hits 47, and then you're at 34, and then all this happens, and then nope, bull market's completely canceled in the middle of the big run-up. That would have been really bad for Bitcoin. That would have set a very bad taste in people's mouths, and it would have made the charts look very ugly. This happening at the bottom of the bull market, the bottom of the bear market, is actually a good thing, because the worst it could do is extend the accumulation phase for a little bit and allow for us to buy more coin. That's what a lot of you guys are doing. That's what I'm trying to do, is make dollars, buy sats. That's what we want to do. You know, we want to make sure that we are stable and make sure that we are doing well financially, and then we want to buy more Bitcoin. And I assume you're in a similar position. So, long rant. Let me just back up a little bit here. First thing I want to do, if you guys have any questions about what I just talked about and you want me to elaborate on any of it, somebody gave me some advice. One of our employees, Malachi Pats, he said he might be watching this right now. Maybe you should, in fact, I think it might have been my sister, whoever it was. They're like, maybe you should teach more than just preach. And I guess I was kind of preaching there for a little bit about what the market's looking like. So if there's anything that you'd like for me to teach on and actually explain, I would be more than happy to. So feel free to ask me to elaborate. Bitcoin Trini said, what's going on? That's probably a good place to start. Let me kind of clarify what I'm saying here. I just threw a lot of information at you that would take a very long time to break down in its fullness, but I like talking about it on the channel here. All of that information ties one major story together, and that is the world is changing, and it's changing in a very massive way. The world is changing in a way that the golden age that we saw over the last 20 years, starting a few years after the fall of the Soviet Union, when we saw an incredible amount of capital and resources pour into the global economy, which was already moving towards globalization, starting there, ending about 2018, 2019, especially with the beginning of the pandemic. That's come to an end, and that's changing. And with where we are technologically and culturally, we probably will see another golden age of that caliber at some point in the next 10 to 15 years. But it's not going to be soon. It's not going to be easy, and it is going to be a very tumultuous transition. And we're in transition right now globally. That transition is turbulence. Humanity's marching forward. Technological advancement is still happening. We're still becoming more efficient, but we still have the same problems that we had. And so now we have to figure out what to do with them. Now we have to figure out what to do with them with an economy that's weaker. Now we have to figure out what to do with them with the workforce globally shrinking by a few 100 million people over the next 3 to 5 years as people reach retirement age. What do we do with that? Who knows? The fact is that's going to come down to politicians, probably on some kind of something. Politicians, lawmakers, regulators, business people, entrepreneurs, and consumers around the world. We'll see what takes place. But I can tell you one thing for sure, and that is the next 8 years is going to be tumultuous. And that tumult may not be very conducive to the growth of the price of Bitcoin. However, that tumultuous environment is also the exact same environment that Bitcoin itself was built for. So while the industry was not built to cope with it, Bitcoin itself was. And so Bitcoin itself will probably thrive. Ethereum itself probably will thrive. Their prices will probably thrive. The rest of the industry, maybe not so much, because we're going to have to build it the hard way rather than just saying, hey, buy my altcoin because it'll 100x. You might not see quite as much of that as you would expect in the next bull market. You'll probably still see a lot of it, but you probably won't see quite as much of it as you did last bull market. Whether you're teaching or preaching, I still get more out of what you say than most of the years of traditional education I've gone through. I appreciate that, man. There's sometimes where I really wish I had some kind of a formal teaching in economics just so that I can lean on it. So I'm trying to teach myself as much as I possibly can about economics and about geopolitics, about macro, micro, all of those things. But want to bring you as much information as I can. If there's wealth in your account and you have to get a mark to use it, don't. This is all part of the plan. Yeah, that's for sure. From my understanding of Revelation, I don't think the mark shows up until halfway through tribulation, and you will know if we're in tribulation. So I could be wrong on that, though. I'm not exactly a historian or what would it be? An eschatological scholar, meaning a scholar of the end times and eschatology. But from my understanding of Revelation and my study of it, I don't think that's going to happen before tribulation begins. Shadrach Frost said, hashtag smash the like button and show love for Jebb and the family for their efforts to make this show work. Really appreciate it, guys. It's been a crazy couple of months, but I am so excited for this year. I am so excited for this year. We've got some big announcements coming out for you relatively soon. I've actually got a pretty cool amount of kit coming in this afternoon where I'm going to be able to take the show on the road and be able to take it anywhere. As far as if we have to do something at the house, if we're going on a trip, if we're going to a conference, if we're, wherever we are, that I'll be able to put the entire stream and all the gear, and there's a lot of gear that goes into running the stream, into a backpack, take it on my back and stream from anywhere on the planet. That's going to be pretty cool, as long as I have an internet connection. I will be here in 2030, Lord willing. Hold me to it, Pastor Jebb. All right, Queen, we'll see you in 8 years. See you then. Bye. I guess we're not going to see Queen for another 8 years. I'm just kidding. I know what you're saying. Only the power of love overcomes the love of power. Will the world know peace? That's right. We need God. We need the Lord. Let's see. Looks like we got Satoshi Nakamoto in chat. Let's go. It really doesn't matter to me. Nobody was listening to me in 2008 and 2009. Nobody ever listens to me, Satoshi Nakamoto. Well, probably because you won't speak. You never show up. Nobody knows where you are. You want to come on the channel for an interview? Like, hey, if it's the real Satoshi, let's do it. I will gladly interview the real Satoshi Nakamoto. Will the real Satoshi Nakamoto please stand? Let's see. Let's see. I heard we were in the lost decade. Yeah, maybe. We shall see. We shall see. Lord's still good, no matter what the economy is doing. Hi, Jebb and family. Happy New Year's. Thank you so much, Sushi. 7 years. 7 years. That's right. Wow. Wow. 2030 is only 7 years away. That's crazy. I would love you to actually preach. Yes. I would love to do that at some point in the future. I love the Lord. He was almost there. Lol. All right. Well, let's go ahead and read a couple of articles here. Like I said, had about 45 seconds to put the show together today. Hopefully it's going well. FTX founder reportedly cashes out $684,000 after being released on bail. SBF has allegedly cashed out $684,000 from a crypto exchange in the Seychelles while being under house arrest, according to an on-chain investigation. He's denied this, but whether it's true or not, we shall see. This article is a few days old, but if you didn't see this, I think you should. FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried is reportedly cashing out large amounts of crypto soon after being released on bail. On-chain data shows SBF cashed out $684,000 in crypto in an exchange in the Seychelles while being under house arrest, according to on-chain investigator by DeFi educator Bowtied Iguana. You may have heard of him. DeFi analyst Bowtied Iguana took to Twitter on December 29th, that's how you know you got too much Bitcoin in your head, to report on a series of obfuscated wallet transactions allegedly linked to SBF, suggesting that the former FTX CEO could have violated release conditions to not spend more than $1,000 without permission from the court. That's crazy. Not allowed to spend more than $1,000 without permission from the court. Dude's like, but wait a minute. Wait, I'm hungry. I want like one of those gold-flaked hamburgers that they sell in New York City. Why can't I do that, Judge? And the judge said, yeah, well, there are school teachers and single moms that need the money more than you do, and they should probably try and get it back to them before you go and spend more money on needless, frivolous activities. According to Bowtied Iguana's analysis, SBF's public address 0xD5758 on December 28th sent all remaining Ethereum to a newly created address. You can see there, Bowtied Iguana know that SBF took over the address that was originally owned by SushiSwap creator from Chef Nami on August 2020. So that'd be the question, is did he or did he not actually remove the crypto? We don't know. But the dude was granted $250 million in bail. And, by the way, he also came out, well, it didn't come out, but it came out that he asked the judge to keep the identities of the guarantors of his $250 million bail a secret. Very, very, very curious where he's gotten that money for his bail. Very curious. Anyway, Sam Bankman-Fried's life on bail, armed guards, daily jogs, and gawkers. Compared to his prison accommodations in the Bahamas, the former billionaire appears to be living a pretty decent life while under house arrest. Sam Bankman-Fried has reportedly been leading a pretty decent life while under house arrest in his parents' home in Palo Alto with the daily jogs, a security detail, and a couple of in-home visits. However, it's not exactly a life of endless luxury either. The former FTX CEO is reportedly required to wear an ankle monitor and is only allowed to leave the house under certain conditions, among other restrictions. The aforementioned Palo Alto home, located on the border of Stanford University's campus, is understood to be a $4 million property, equipped with 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, and a pool, according to real estate listings. The property has had to be barricaded on both ends, however, as Bankman-Fried has reportedly faced death threats while his home has turned into something of a tourist attraction for curious onlookers. His family is shelling out $10,000 a week for a private security firm, according to a December 27th article by the New York Post. As part of the December 22nd bond agreement, Bankman-Fried is required to wear an ankle bracelet, has been forced to surrender his passport, and is also required to seek approval for any transaction in excess of $1,000. He's also not allowed to possess a firearm or any other weapon or destructive device. He is only able to leave the property for exercise, substance abuse treatment, or mental health treatment, something he is understood to have taken up, with multiple reports indicating he has been going for daily jogs with a security detail in tow. While this is still a far cry from the Bahamas penthouse he was previously living in, it still appears far better than the conditions of his cell in Foxhole Prison in the Bahamas. That just sounds like the kind of place that this kind of guy that he should go. Foxhole Prison. That's just kind of sends chills down your spine. That doesn't sound like the kind of place you want to be sent. I mean, prison in general doesn't, but Foxhole Prison. That's oof. I'm going to throw him in a hole somewhere. That's kind of Fox Hill. I'm sorry. It's Fox Hill Prison. That's somehow even worse. That being said, some of the crypto community have been vocal about Bankman-Fried's release on bail, particularly considering he was able to do so without any upfront payment. Yeah, ridiculous. SBF will be spending Christmas at home with his parents playing video games rather than locked up in a cell. What kind of justice is that? Instead, his parents' property has been put up as security for the record $250 million bond, and Bankman-Fried claimed to only have $100,000 left in his bank account following the collapse of FTX. He's reportedly already been visited by journalist Michael Lewis, author of the popular trading-focused book The Big Short, Liar's Poker, and Flash Boys, who reportedly has embedded with SBF for over months as part of a book project. On December 28th, cryptocurrency vlogger Tiffany Fong revealed on Twitter she had visited Bankman-Fried and his parents' home for a conversation just the night before. Fong was one of the first to interview Bankman-Fried after the exchange went bankrupt in November and is expected to write about the meeting after her holiday. Bankman-Fried has denied criminal liability numerous times since the collapse of FTX. He is set to appear in a New York federal court on January 3rd to be arraigned on charges of wire fraud and conspiracy, which, by the way, yesterday afternoon he pleaded not guilty to. So, builds a $32 billion exchange from nothing. Presents himself to the world as a wonder kid who has the ability to build something out of nothing in a huge way. Gets sponsorships with, some of the world's most famous athletes. The world's most famous football player. Has connections with some of the world's most famous analysts and economists, is working with plenty of lawmakers and regulators while running a $32 billion cryptocurrency exchange. Then it implodes on itself. Fraud took place. And he's facing up to 115 years in prison. And while being bankrupt, just so you know, gets out of jail, awaiting trial, on a $250 million bond to live in a $4 million penthouse in Palo Alto. Not penthouse, $4 million house in Palo Alto. And the worst that he has is he's not allowed to spend $1,000 without the court's approval. His parents don't have that same thing because they're still spending $1,000 every month on the payment on that house, surely. It's probably a $10,000 payment at least. Just knocked out my headphones. Hang on one second. Sorry about that. Want to be able to hear the feedback. Boom. There we go. So you're telling me that Sam Bankman-Fried is completely getting away with this. $250 million bail that there was no upfront payment required, and the worst that there is collateral on his parents' house. Like, that's pretty bad. But let me just ask, where in the world is he going to get $250 million from? And why in the world would he be allowed to get $250 million? Because if he's able to raise $250 million, should that not go to the people that lost money at FTX? Why would he go and raise $250 million to get himself out of jail when he could raise $250 million to at least make the creditors a little bit more whole, to get 1 or 2% of their money back to them if you distribute that among the $8 billion, $10 billion in deposits? If he's able to raise $250 million, why is he using that to keep himself out of jail while he's awaiting trial? Because he's going to go to prison anyway. Bail doesn't get you out of jail time, out of prison time. It just gets you out of jail while you're awaiting trial. What was the point of that? What was the point of that? Especially if you want to take him at his word that, oh, he's doing everything he can to get money back to people. Well, if you're able to raise $250 million to keep yourself out of jail for 3 weeks, then why couldn't you do that to get money back to people that trusted you for 3 years? I don't know. Benefit of the doubt would say maybe by not being in jail, he has the ability to work on raising money for the creditors. That's about the best I can come up with, and I don't buy it anyway. I'm not bitter with Sam Bankman-Fried. That wouldn't be right of me, and then all of a sudden I'd be in sin too. But the question really does come down to, how much longer is he going to get a slap on the wrist? How much longer is he not going to be facing the due justice for what he did and what he knew he was doing? Because I don't believe this was all one big mistake. I may have started that way, but then there was lies and sin and illegal activity that took place to cover up what may have started as mistakes and not knowing how to run the company, and compounded to the point where people lost billions. At what point does he receive the 115 years of prison time? That's what we're going to have to keep an eye on. We don't know. Anyway, really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. System works different for non-rich folks. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. SPF even telling his lawyers not to disclose who put up his bail fund. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely nuts. All right. Mercy, I just woke up. I guess I needed the sleep. At any rate, good morning, Crypto fam. Good morning, Silent. I thought you were pretty silent in chat. SPF belongs in jail, period. Absolutely. If you love Jesus, it's your job to oppose Marxists. Just read a book about how they were treated under Stalin and Mao and understand. Yeah, I'm not going into that conversation. Not going there. Let's see. Jebb, where's the coffee? Like I said, I am going to try to go cold turkey on it again. I've gotten off of it for the most part. I was actually doing that anyway, but then I got 2.5 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep on Monday morning, and so I had some coffee on Monday, and now it's working on that. Hi, all CNC crew. Keep safe, all. Thank you very much. Hi, Jebb and family. Happy New Year, said Sushi. Oh, I already read that one. Thank you, guys. Let's see. They only have to pay $225 million. Maybe they have that money. And by the way, if they do have that money, they didn't make that money on a professor's income. They made that money from their son, which means that they could probably, in theory, have that garnished to pay back FTX. Who knows if that would be right or legal, but it's an interesting thought. Directing consumer deposits to Alameda could not possibly be interpreted as a mistake by anyone. That's absolutely right. Totally agree. Totally agree. All right, guys. Are you trying to quit caffeine or coffee? Caffeine. It's nothing against coffee, because I love coffee. I love coffee a lot. And I might drink decaf, but yeah, I'm just gonna put that to rest. As soon as he got out, big crypto sales flooded the market. Coincidence that the whole bail situation was a scam. The judge was compromised and should have not been allowed. That's, yeah. No, it's ridiculous. All right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap the stream out. I really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. Tell me, was it a decent stream for having less than a minute to put the plan together? Hopefully it was. Really appreciate being able to come on, and thank you guys for your patience and understanding. We're going to keep a very close eye on everything, and to the best of my ability, I will keep you guys updated, and please pray for us. We definitely want to meet our daughter, but she is definitely not ready yet, so we want her to stay in there. We're 25 weeks tomorrow. Yeah. Jebb looks beat, bro. Just stop looking at crypto. Not beat. I just need a haircut and I'm tired because I don't have coffee. So if I look that way, that's why. But I actually got a real good feeling. Oh, I got a real good feeling. By the way, on a personal note, last night, my wife, I don't know if I told you, my wife got me a guitar for Christmas. She got me a Martin Dreadnought Jr. And this guitar is awesome. It sounds amazing. I don't know how to play guitar. So I've played it like 4 or 5 times just trying to pick up a few different chords. I had a friend over that was in the Army and saw him, and he knew how to play guitar. So he helped me a little bit and showed me a few things. And he showed me that the tuner I was using was actually tuning it wrong. And I've played enough music to know that this thing was not in tune. But my tuner was telling me it was in tune. So I'm like, okay, maybe I just don't know guitar that well. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is in tune. He tuned it up, and oh man, it sounds amazing. So I'm actually learning some stuff now. So tell me if you guys play guitar, and pray for me to learn because I suck right now. But maybe one day I'll be decent enough to actually play something. Queen said, stay well, Finsoft, Sarah, and family. Omello Fellow said, thanks, Jebb. You're awesome. Bitcoin Trinity said, thanks, Jebb. God bless. Daz Meekins said, love the stream. Thanks. Appreciate you guys. I really, really do. If you enjoyed today's stream, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, follow us on all of our social media, and stay tuned because we've got a lot of massive content coming out relatively soon, and I'm really looking forward to showing it all to you. It's going to be a great year, a lot of work to be done. I'm not saying everything's going to go perfect immediately, but I'm really excited for what this year brings and the opportunity therein. Before I go, though, guys, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.